What's up, guys? It's Toad back with you yet again, as usual. This is Better Off Dead for Sunday, January 26th. I will briefly talk about the NFL, I guess, at the end of the show, even though I already talked about it, so I don't want to go into detail, but I did last night. Thanks to everybody who hung out in the chat last night for the NFL show. Go check that out. There's still time, obviously. I have one play, which I will reiterate on this show as well, but I talked about both games, side and total perspective, basically no props, but I always have props on the Super Bowl, so I will add some props to the Super Bowl, but today I'm just rolling with the one side, which I'll just throw it up now, is the Philadelphia Eagles -6. I'll mention a little bit as to why I'm on that at the end of this show, but you can go check out the NFL video from last night to get the detailed analysis. Here I'm going to talk about college basketball, NHL, and NBA. Small card, but I do have one play in college basketball and one in hockey. So get to those in a minute. Yesterday, 3-6, terrible day. It started out, I mentioned this last night, but I was kind of like treading water. Like the first two college favorites both won outright, but didn't cover the spread, which it looked like they were both not going to cover the spread. So it's not like they blew like a big lead or anything like that. Mississippi State went into overtime, and then they still only missed by like 2 points, though. And then UNC Greensboro also won and didn't cover. Frustrating. Got the win on Vandy, a big, nice home win over Kentucky there. I was going to call it an upset, which it technically was, but not a huge upset. Crowd rushed the court in that one, so maybe look to fade Vandy in their next game. And then I got, what else did I have? I know I had Oregon State in kind of the later slate. They had an easy win. I had another loss in there. Oh, I won on Rutgers because I took 7.5 after my show was over. I still hadn't played that game. The line moved up like probably about a half an hour after I was done with the show. I'm like, oh, crap, it's up to 7.5. I'll just grab that. So lucky for me because that landed on 7. So that one actually hit for me on Rutgers. So hopefully you guys did not get the worst number on that, even though I did give it out at a different number on the show, just because that's the number that it was at that time. I still kind of liked it either way, but obviously it's key to get the best number that you can. And then I don't know what else I lost on. I mean, I know I lost on the hockey game, just brutal. I think it was 2-0, and then lost basketball, NBA. Golden State was hanging around. It was a close game for the first half, and then they just totally lost it in the second half. No clue what happened there. And then I had Cal State Bakersfield, very frustrating, because if they had won, it would have been at least 4-5. I mean, that's not anywhere near as bad as 3-6. Bakersfield had the lead for a majority of the game, and they let multiple leads slip away. They blew multiple leads and wound up losing the game. Really pisses me off on that one because I thought that one was a solid play. And then, of course, some of my leans were getting there and being correct, and I'm like, it's just so annoying, man. Got to, my selectivity did not work out yesterday, but I had been hot the couple of days prior to that. I had a nice run in college basketball for a little while. I had a really good week. I'm still up on the year, but not by much, so I want to keep it going here. And then I forget, what was my other loss in basketball? I don't even remember what it was. I could actually look, I guess, real quick. I just kind of want to refresh my memory. There was one other college basketball play in there. There was not a win. What the heck was it? I have no idea. So yesterday, yeah, kind of a brutal day yesterday. Looking at my stats here, this is not good. And Action Network takes forever to load, which is awesome. At least there's not too many games I'm going to talk about here today, so come on, man, just load. What was the other game that I lost? How do I not remember? I don't fucking know, man. This is great content, obviously. There it is. It was, DePaul. They got their asses kicked. Yeah, great. All right. Let's get into today. We got college basketball. As I said, I do have one play. There are a few big games on the slate here. I'm going to talk about my play right away because it's the first big game up, first Big Ten game up at noon Eastern. Indiana plus 3.5. I'm going to take the points here. I'm going to fade Maryland. And you know me, like I've been on a lot of Maryland and Indiana games recently, and I've been nailing their games, so hopefully that continues. So Maryland, they just came off a win over Illinois, which I was on Maryland in that game, and that game wound up being a blowout win for Maryland. That was a huge win on the road, man, for Maryland against a ranked Illinois team. Now they have a second straight road game at Indiana, who's not playing that well. I keep saying Indiana's overrated, which I think they still are, but there are spots where you can take them, like when I took them against Ohio State. I think you can take them here as well, because Maryland, I think, is in a sandwich spot. They're off that huge win over Illinois. Now they're going to step out, face Indiana for a second straight road game. And Indiana, even though, yeah, they have name recognition, yeah, people think they're better than they actually are, teams like Illinois and Wisconsin are still going to draw your focus more than Indiana will. And Wisconsin is who Maryland has up next. So that's a big game in 3 days. We'll see if I'm projecting something there if Maryland actually does get the win there. But that's a huge game. So this looks like a sandwich spot between two ranked teams for me. Second straight road game. I don't like it. And for Indiana, I think it is a bounce back spot. I was on Indiana against Ohio State. So they won that game as a 7.5-point underdog because they were coming off a blowout loss to Indiana, to Illinois, just a huge, ugly loss. And Ohio State, I believe, was coming off upsetting Purdue. Is that right? Which I was also on that game. So I faded Ohio State. Or Ohio State maybe had Purdue up next. I can't remember. I think it was, between Michigan State and Purdue maybe. No, it was between Wisconsin and Purdue. My mistake. So we can fade Ohio State, by the way, in their next game because they're coming off that win over Purdue now, which I was also on. But so Indiana pulled off the upset over Ohio State, which I think was in the sandwich spot between Wisconsin and Purdue, I believe is what it was. And then Indiana played a second straight road game after that, and they lost to Northwestern. Kind of an ugly loss there to Northwestern. Northwestern, Northwestern actually is better than Indiana, though, as weird as that sounds. And Indiana lost the game. So now I think Indiana is in a bounce-back spot again. I think this is the type of game where they're going to show up, and even more so because their last home game was that horrendous loss to Illinois. So they're going to remember that, and they're going to want to play way better at home. They don't want that to be their most recent game at home, man. They don't want to leave it like that. When you lose so badly on your own floor, you want to turn it around. So I'm going to grab Indiana plus the points in this one. I think it's a bad spot for Maryland, and I think it's a bounce-back spot for Indiana in this one. Ken Baum does have this line like right around, 4. So it's close to the number. I know, as I keep saying, Indiana is not that good. They're ranked 62nd in Ken Baum, 22nd and 27th in luck. So not a whole lot good there as far as Indiana is concerned, but this is all about the spot. Yes, Maryland is the better team. Both teams like to play somewhat fast pace, so there's not going to be a huge tempo collision here between these two teams. Yes, I know Indiana's higher in luck index. They do have a pretty strong strength of schedule, though, so that's not bad. Stronger than Maryland's, actually, although Maryland is way down in luck, so Maryland is actually better than they look. Indiana's worse than they look, but in this spot, Indiana will be the play in this one because of the situation. So give me Indiana plus the points there. Matthew, what's up, man? Kansas money line? Yeah, that is brutal. I talked about that game on my show, and my lean was to Houston in that game. I thought Houston was the better team, but obviously when it came down to having a 3-point lead in overtime or whatever, I think it was more than 3. I think it was like 6 in overtime, and then it was still 3 with 7 seconds left, and Kansas threw away the inbound pass. But I am a Kansas hater. I hate Hunter Dickinson, so I am, let's just say I'm not unhappy with that result, although I did not have any money on that game. But again, I did lean to Houston, but when it came down to it, it looks like they should have lost the game, and they pulled that game. They snatched victory from the jaws of defeat, man. Houston probably is better fundamentally than Kansas is, if that makes sense. Nebraska's at Wisconsin. Another Big Ten matchup here. Wisconsin's coming up that loss to UCLA. Tough game. They're coming back from the Pacific Coast, and now they got to face Nebraska. Doesn't seem like the greatest spot for Wisconsin to me in this one. And Nebraska, I think they're going to show up for this one. I mean, this is a big game. Nebraska's lost a bunch of games in a row. The public's probably going to look at this and think, oh, Wisconsin crushed USC on the road. Nebraska couldn't even beat USC at home, and now Yeah, now we get Wisconsin laying what looks like not that bad a price. It's 7.5. It's gone down a little bit. 74% of tickets, 74% of the cash. But I would lean to taking the points with Nebraska on this one. I mean, they're on a terrible stretch right now where something I think has got to give. I think they got to play better. They did play decently in their last road game at Maryland, where they did cover that big number against Maryland. So Nebraska definitely is competitive at the very least, and I think they may be in this game. And Wisconsin a lot of times does not score tons of points, even though they are faster this year than they have been in the past as far as their pacing. So I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I think Nebraska, if I'm not mistaken, Nebraska also does like to play slow, right? Let me see. Or actually, they play like mid-tempo. So it's not going to be that much of a pacing difference between the two. Both teams kind of play in the mid-tempo range, so there's not going to be a huge disparity there either. So, yeah, my lean would be to grab the points in that one, but not going to be a play, obviously. Oh, and by the way, I forgot to mention Maryland and Indiana, by the way. People are going to look at that Illinois result because Maryland just went in and crushed Illinois on the road, whereas Illinois went into Indiana and crushed Indiana. So I think the public's going to look at this and think, this is going to be so easy to take Maryland in this game, right? Because Maryland crushed Illinois, who crushed Indiana. Maryland did it at Illinois, and Illinois did it at Indiana. So this is so easy, right? Take Maryland. So again, no. Indiana plus the points is the play there. That transitive type of handicapping does not work. Memphis is playing UAB. I mean, this is a decent American athletic matchup here. Memphis is coming off an escape against Wichita, man, so they may bounce back from this. They did not play well against Wichita. They were losing the game. This Memphis team, by the way, I still don't think Penny Hardaway is a very good coach, and Memphis is one of the most turnover-prone teams in the entire country. They're turning it over on like 20% of their possessions. It's crazy, and that almost caught them in this game, but Wichita, thankfully for them, also had a lot of turnovers in this game. And Memphis wound up escaping and not getting shocked by the Shockers. So I do kind of expect Memphis to put up a better performance after that because that was such a bad game. So I would not look to fade Memphis in this one. UAB, though, they're going to show up, and they are on a roll right now, having won 5 games in a row. So UAB is going to show up in this game as well, and they are not a bad team in this conference. So it could be an interesting one. Memphis is down from 9 to 7.5. It looks like the money is coming in strongly on UAB. 51% of tickets on Memphis, but 74% of the cash on UAB. Memphis, again, you got to worry about how turnover prone they are. So it's kind of tough to actually bet on this Memphis team. I'm not even going to recommend that you play that side, obviously, in this one. But Memphis, just because they had such a bad game in their last game, I would not really want to fade them here. But I wouldn't disagree with the market either, when the market is coming in on the UAB side. So it's the way I look at that one. And then we do have a couple of second matchups here. Where Long Island, and Mercyhurst in the Northeast Conference is a second matchup. And this is a quick revenge angle where Long Island did just beat Mercyhurst, so the Long Island is the better team. Then Long Island had one game in there and lost to St. Francis, PA, who's not that good. Now they get Mercyhurst again, where they did just beat them, and they have Central Connecticut up next. And Central Connecticut is basically the team that's battling Long Island for the top of this conference right now. So it may be a little bit of a look ahead for Long Island, facing a team they already beat once. So maybe slightly into Mercyhurst in this one. And Mercyhurst is coming off beating Wagner for the second straight time, though. So they're playing two teams 2 times in a row, basically, here. Wagner and then Long Island twice in a row. Kind of interesting. Weird the way the schedule sets up there. So lean to Mercyhurst. Long Island down from 3 to 2.5. 86% of tickets, 90% of the cash on them. Mercyhurst, also, this is going to be Long Island having to go to their arena. And Mercyhurst may have a little bit of a home edge here in the conference because these teams are not used to playing there. This is in Erie, Pennsylvania. Mercyhurst, I think, just moved up to Division I, and they've played almost all their games on the road so far in the conference, which is really weird. They've had so many road games so far in the conference. They've only played at home against Central Connecticut, which they lost. They played 3 home games. They beat Stonehill and they beat Wagner, so they're actually 2-1 on this floor in conference play, and the only loss was to the best team in the conference, Central Connecticut. So, I mean, Long Island is also one of the better teams, but the odds makers have this line fairly close, even though I think Long Island was 7.5 at home. So, yeah, I mean, that does seem about right, actually, that it should be about 2.5 in this one, or 3. So, that is the way that I lean in that one. Kind of an interesting matchup to some extent. More Big Ten action. We got a lot of Big Ten action. Triple header of Big Ten, where actually it's not a triple header, but Maryland and Indiana are on CBS, and then Big Ten has Nebraska, Wisconsin, and then Big Ten also is going to have Northwestern and Illinois, which is the battle of the Chicago area teams. Northwestern coming off that nice win over Indiana. They're going to show up for a game against Illinois because they are the little brother in Illinois in the Chicago area, but Northwestern did already beat Illinois the other time they played them early this year before official conference play started. But there were a couple of conference games early in the season there. Northwestern beat Illinois. Big win for Northwestern in that one, beating their in-state big brother there. So they're going to try to do it again, yes, but Illinois may take them a little bit seriously this time. And Illinois is coming off that ugly loss to Maryland as well, where I was on Maryland in that one. I thought it was a sandwich spot for Illinois because they came off that brutal loss to Michigan State where they could have won that game on that national TV game that I think was on CBS on either Sunday or Monday, I forget, but I was watching a lot of that game. And then they had this game against Northwestern up next, where I thought this game would draw Illinois' focus because Illinois lost to Northwestern earlier this year. So I do think Northwestern is going to want revenge here. And they're coming off such a horrendous loss. I would actually lean to Illinois in this one. I think they are going to actually show up in this one. The line's down from 10 to 8. 77% of tickets and cash, so they're definitely public. I don't know if more of the cash is coming in on them or not, but I do think they're going to be looking for revenge, so that is the way that I would lean there. And then we do have one really ugly Big 12 matchup, mostly ugly because Oklahoma State sucks. Oklahoma State is at Texas Tech. I don't know what to do with this game at all, to be honest. Oklahoma State, they do have 2 wins in conference, but against K-State and Colorado, they haven't beaten any of the better teams in conference. I don't expect them to beat Texas Tech here, but Texas Tech is rolling. They just had another win against Cincinnati on the road, where I thought Texas Tech was in a bad spot in that one, and they still won. Now they get this game where they may not totally pay attention to Oklahoma State, and they do have TCU, Houston, Baylor all up next. They have all Texas opponents coming up, so they may not totally take Oklahoma State seriously in this one, but the line looks like it's up a little bit from 18 to 18 with juice. 64% of tickets and 72% of the cash. So some of the money looks like it is actually coming in on the Texas Tech side. I'm not sure that I would agree with that because Texas Tech does like to play a grinding, slow game at home. And if they do that, it's going to be a little bit difficult for them to cover a large number like that. I mean, I highly doubt that they lose the game, obviously. But as far as covering, probably a little bit dangerous to lay the points there, even though they are the significantly better team. So I'm going to stay away from that. Let's move over to NHL. We have a few games today. Colorado just lost to my Bruins yesterday, and they were just involved in that trade that people brought up last night where I already forget the names of the guys who were traded. Colorado and Carolina were involved in a blockbuster trade where I know Colorado got Ncaab from Carolina along with one other guy, and Colorado gave up a guy whose name I already forget. I probably will say it here, actually. So I don't think that Rantanen is who they traded. The trade was before yesterday's game, so I don't know if Nikas is going to be there yet or whatever, but as far as hockey personnel, if you're just changing like 1 or 2 guys, I don't know that it affects like an individual game handicap that much. What I will say is that Colorado is on a back-to-back. They just lost at Boston yesterday. Now they have to go and play the New York Rangers, who did not play yesterday. So the Rangers are on rest at least. So I would not want to play Colorado here. The Rangers are up from -115 to -117. Surprisingly, they are public. 79% of tickets, but only 50% of the cash. Rangers, I would not expect them to be public with the way they've been playing this year. I mean, they have a worse record than Colorado. They haven't been that good. Although the record, I guess, is not that much worse. But Colorado's been a decent road team this year, though. As you can see here, they're above 500. Rangers at home have just been all right. But, again, it is a back-to-back for Colorado, so the rest situation definitely is in favor of the Rangers. I will not play the game, though. Rutgers, 46 miles away from Manhattan, claiming that home games played at Madison Square helps them. Do they claim that? I don't know about that. Does that even make sense? I don't know. I know Madison Square Garden, basically, like the team that kind of gets like the home games at Madison Square Garden is St. John's. So I don't know. St. John's plays somewhere else in the area, but they do get some like semi-home games at Madison Square. I think that's kind of considered to be their like extra home arena almost. Although, come on, it's an NBA arena. I mean, it is where the Knicks play, but I don't see Rutgers claiming that. Although, if it was a tournament game, I could see that being the case. Like, if Rutgers is playing a tournament game in New York, that is a pretty close location, so you know their fans are probably gonna show up for something like that. Wait, Rutgers hosted Michigan's. Oh yeah, the game was at Madison Square Garden. I forgot about that. I thought it was in New Jersey when I handicapped that game. Yeah, Michigan State is just really good though. But luckily, I did get the money, the cash on that one. I got the plus 7.5, so I at least escaped with a win on that bet on Rutgers plus the points. But yeah, I totally mishandicapped that in that respect. I thought it was going to be at Rutgers home stadium. So maybe because of the move, maybe that's why the line moved up 2 points. I don't know. Michigan State is a really good team though, and Rutgers is certainly not. Queens on a 3-game losing streak. Yeah, I've seen that. My Lipscomb team, yeah, I'm not even a fan of Lipscomb at all, but I just think that they're the best team in that conference. Queens, I've been saying, is a fraud. I mean, I got caught trying to play Austin P against them, whatever that was, not that long ago. But Queens, yeah, they have not been doing as well recently. The teams that they lost to, I don't think are that bad, though. I forget who they lost to. They lost to North Florida. And North Florida was a team that early in the season beat Georgia Tech. And who else did they beat? They beat one other like big conference team. I can't remember. South Carolina, maybe. So, yeah, that North Florida team is not that bad. And I think maybe North Alabama might have been one of those wins over Queens. North Alabama is also pretty good in that conference, at least. All right. My plays going to be in this next game here, Utah at Ottawa. It's an ugly game, but it's a game where I think there's an angle, and the play is going to be on Utah plus 112 on the underdog money line here on this one. Ottawa's down from minus 120 to minus 118. 86% of the tickets on them, but 66% of the cash on Utah. A lot of market agreement with me on this one. It looks like with Ottawa being public, the line looks like it's reverse moving against them. It looks like the cash is coming in on Utah, and that is the way that I'm going in this one. I like the fade of Ottawa in this game. Ottawa just beat the Toronto Maple Leafs yesterday, man, and that's a big game. You know that playing the Maple Leafs is a big game for Ottawa because they're the rivals in the province of Ontario there. That was a huge win, and it was a return home spot, and they still won the game against Toronto. Big win there. They're now playing a back-to-back third game in 4 days, all in different cities, and a fourth game in 6 days, and actually a fifth game in 8 days, all in different cities, and it's actually a sixth game in 9 days as well. So they've had a completely jammed schedule here. So this Ottawa team, not going to be that well rested coming into this game, and they have to play this bad Utah team, and up next they got Washington, which I think is going to be a big look ahead too, because Washington's probably, I mean, I won't say they're the best team, but they have the best record in hockey right now. So I think this is a sandwich spot. Ottawa coming off that huge game yesterday with no rest, and they got Washington up next. I think this is a play on Utah here. As bad as Utah has been in some of these games, I like the spot for Utah a lot better. Utah at least had yesterday off. Yes, I know they are playing a third game in 4 days as well, all in different cities, but in that span where you're getting like a sixth game or whatever in 9 days for Ottawa, you're only getting a fifth game, or actually fifth game in that time span for Utah. So they've had more rest over that span. Yes, I know they faced some difficult opponents. They pulled off huge wins against Winnipeg and Minnesota. But then in their most recent game, Winnipeg got revenge against them and beat them up. So Utah's coming off that. Utah is 1-1 on the road trip right now, and this is the last game of the road trip. Not a long, grueling road trip. They've only been away since Thursday, so I think this is a spot where Utah's going to try to get the winning road trip here. I mean, you'd much rather have a 2-1 road trip than a 1-2, so I think they're going to show up for this one, and they're coming out of a loss, and they had yesterday off, although they did have to travel, but so the travel spot is a little bit worse for them. But other than that, Utah's got the rest advantage. I think Ottawa is in a sandwich spot. Give me Utah, the Utah Hockey Club, plus 112 in that one. And then we got Florida and Vegas is the big game on the hockey slate here. Florida is on a back-to-back. They just absolutely annihilated San Jose last night. They are in a back-to-back, but that was such an easy game. I don't even know if it's going to affect them that much. You will probably get Knight in net for Florida here because Bobrovsky played yesterday. As weird as that sounds, Florida, I mean, I think they just kind of line up their goalies based on the rest, and they don't really care which opponent, which goalie is facing, because you'd think that with these two games, you'd think that they would care more about, that's what they're, that's not what they're doing. You'd think they'd care more about Vegas and play Bobrovsky in this game instead of the other game, but that's not what they're doing. So we'll probably be getting Florida's lesser goalie here in Knight. So that might not be that great for them. They're on the back-to-back, like I said, traveling from San Jose to Vegas. Not a huge trip, but they are still on the back-to-back. They're in Vegas, maybe in a little bit of a bounce-back spot because they did lose to Dallas. They are returning home from a road trip and playing a third game in 4 days, though, so all in different cities. So there is some travel for Vegas as well, more travel actually coming from Dallas to Florida, but they did have yesterday off. So Florida played yesterday and Vegas did not. So Vegas at least has that day rest there. That Dallas game was tough though. I mean, that's a tough opponent, and they have Dallas again up in 2 days, but are they going to overlook Florida? I mean, I doubt it. I mean, Florida's a big opponent as well. They're the returning champs, so coming into Vegas's place, you got to expect Vegas should be focused here as well. Slightly into Vegas in this one, all being said, but not a play at all for me. Up from minus 123 to minus 125, 82% of tickets, 86% of the cash. So Vegas looks public, but some money is coming in on that side. The Avs-Canes trade, I talked about it last night. I don't have a whole lot of thoughts about it. I talked about it on my football show last night because somebody asked. I think maybe a little bit of an advantage for the Canes on that trade, but I don't know enough about the specific personnel to really know which player is actually better than the other. Apparently, the guys last night were saying that Rantanen is better than Nikas, so maybe that is the case. But the Canes getting rid of Nikas, man, they're getting rid of their anagram player. Nikas is an anagram of Canes. How could they do that, man? But it may be a trade that benefits Carolina more than it benefits Colorado. I don't know. I mean, we'll have to see. To me, it looked like it was a close trade, but I don't know that much. So, yeah, I don't exactly know. All right, and we got one NBA game today. For whatever reason, one game gets a spotlight in the NBA, and that is Oklahoma City at Portland. Who's going to watch this game, man? What the hell? Good luck to the people who are going to watch this game. I mean, NFL is going to be going on at the same time. Not many people are going to be watching this basketball game, I will say. Oklahoma City's coming off that tough game against Dallas. I'm shocked that they lost that game in quick revenge with Luka still not there. Oklahoma City was in a really bad spot and rested Gilgeous-Alexander the first time they played Dallas, which is why I played Dallas in that game. OKC was off the huge win over Cleveland. Then OKC couldn't get it done in their last game against Dallas. They lost as a 13.5-point favorite in that game. I think Oklahoma City is going to be angry in this game, man. They're starting a 2-game road trip. That was a bad loss. They have 2 days off to kind of forget about that, go on the road, forget about that. So I think this is actually a focus spot for Oklahoma City, even though the opponent is bad. And Portland is actually returning home from a road trip that took them to the East Coast. So I don't think it's a very good spot for Portland. They went to Miami. They won every game on the road trip against Miami, crushed Orlando, and then they beat me because I played Charlotte in the final game there. I thought Portland was in a sandwich spot off of that huge win over Orlando, and then with Oklahoma City coming up next, I'm like, no way they're going to pay attention to Charlotte, and Charlotte completely let me down. Now you got Portland on a third game in 4 days, fourth game in 6 days, all in different cities. fifth game in 8, and actually a fifth game in 8 days, and a sixth game in 9 days. Most of them in different cities, with the first 2 being back at home. Portland, way less rest here than Oklahoma City. They're having to travel cross country. I think it's a bad spot for Portland, as much as, they should be focused technically on having one of the best teams in the country coming into their place, or one of the best teams in the league coming into their place. But I just think it's a really bad scheduling spot for Portland here. And I think Oklahoma City is actually in a good bounce back spot. So I would look to Oklahoma City in this game. They're up from 11 to 13.5 now. 74% of tickets, 72% of the cash. I mean, they're going to be public, but it looks like some of the actual money is coming in on the side of the Thunder. And that is the way that I lean in that one. When you get a good team in a focused spot like that, in the NBA, it's not really a bad idea necessarily to lay big points in the NBA like that. When it's going to be a mismatch and the better team should actually be focused in that game. It tends not to be that bad of a spot. NFL, as I've already pointed out, I am on the Eagles, sitting at a 6-point favorite still. Washington has the public. I mean, the public loves Washington because of the win over Detroit. I mean, they couldn't have possibly looked better in that game. But now you're looking at a rookie quarterback in a conference championship game where, as I pointed out last night, rookie quarterbacks in that scenario are 0-5, or really 0-4 if you want to put an asterisk on the Brock Purdy one because he got hurt in the game. But I'm not even convinced they would have won that game, to be honest. And the other ones, it's not like we're looking at like rookie quarterbacks who weren't good in those games. Like, one of them was Joe Flacco. One of them was Ben Roethlisberger. So those two wound up winning a Super Bowl. So it's not like these were nobodies as far as the quarterbacks are concerned. And all of them lost when they made the conference championship their rookie year. And they all lost by margin too. Except for Sean King with Tampa in that weird defensive game. All of them lost by double digits otherwise. So history is not on Washington's side in this one. So for all those reasons, I do like the Eagles. The Eagles also have the better defense by far. They have the better offensive and defensive line. They have the better rushing attack. They're just the better team. The only advantage they don't have is the quarterback position. So really, I think the Eagles have the edge everywhere else. So that's the play for me, as I said, is on the Eagles. And now when you can go watch more detailed analysis for me, like I said on my NFL show last night, where I went into detail on those on the history of the rookie quarterbacks in conference championship games. And as far as the total, I like the under in this game. It's down from 48 to 47 now with 79% of tickets, 67% of the cash on that. So I think if the Eagles are going to play their game, I think it is going to be more of a defensive style of game, and that should mean that they're going to be able to hold Washington's offense in check to more of an extent than Detroit did, which I think is not saying much since Detroit's defense is very injured and is not as good as the Eagles' defense. So that's the way that I look at that game. It could be the Eagles' style game, so I lean to the under, but my preference, is the side on the Eagles. And then in the other game, Bills-Chiefs, the AFC Championship game here. Chiefs are up from pick'em to 2. Public looks like they are coming in on the Bills. 72% of the tickets and 76% of the cash. The public seems to be buying into like it's Josh Allen's time. But like I said last night, until I see it, I won't believe it. It may happen. I wouldn't be that shocked if it happened. I'm not betting this game, but the Chiefs, I mean, they've been here and done this so many times that I do think they have the advantage that the history is still on their side and the experience is still on their side, even though the Bills have been to this game once. So they do have a little bit of that experience under their belt now. So certainly it's possible they could win this game. I mean, they've played close games against the Chiefs basically every time they played them. But in the playoffs, of course, we know the Chiefs are 3-0 against them in the Mahomes-Allen era. And unless I see that changing, I don't know that there's reason to expect that to change, so I will stay off of this game. But I lean to the Chiefs, and I leaned to the under in this one last night, but nowhere near as strong as the under in the other game. It's up from 48.5 to 49 now, 77% of tickets and 62% of the cash. So the public is coming in on the over in this one as well, and maybe that's reason for the line having gone up a little bit. But I have heard a couple of professionals that actually like the over in this game as well, and I don't totally agree with that. I mean, I think you're looking at, again, two quarterbacks that kind of have this air around them, like, oh, this is going to be a shootout between Mahomes and Allen. But I mean, as recency will tell you, though, so I'm kind of surprised the public is actually on the over as much as they are here. Recency will tell you that the games haven't really played that way, even though I know the Bills-Chiefs game this year did get up over 50, but it was in the 40s pretty late in the game. So, I mean, this game kind of looks like it has the makings of kind of a 40s type of game, but you could wind up seeing it be kind of like that Bills-Ravens game last week where it gets over on like a late score, like in the later portion of the game, and it gets up right around 50, like right near the end of the game, because I do expect both teams are going to try to establish the run in this game and not want to make mistakes and not be like taking huge risks, at least early in this game. So that's kind of the way that I see that playing out. But again, I like the under in the NFC game better. And of course, the play that I like the best by far is the Eagles minus the points. And that's going to do it for me. Yes, I saw Trump at Circa. I saw some of the videos. It was hilarious, dude. He was like going up to craps tables and like, I think just trying to spread his good luck to some of those people. And then I hope he made some sports bets while he was there, man. And I saw him like grab some dude's hat and like sign it for him, just kind of walking by. Like, man, that's pretty cool. Yeah, the Circa, they do a pretty decent business over there in Vegas. I've only been to Vegas a couple of times. I've been to a decent amount of the sports books over there. As far as those sports books are concerned, I think I like the Westgate, but I do like the Circa as well. They got a good setup there at both of those places. And Caesars just has like a massive sports book set up there as well. Although I don't like them as much because they don't let you bet on the Celtics because it's an ownership conflict there because the Celtics ownership owns Caesars Palace. So you can't bet on Celtics games there, which is kind of annoying. So I'm like running up the street to the Mirage just to bet against the Celtics in the NBA playoffs. And then I lost that bet, by the way. Oh, that was a whole lot of fun. But that meant I didn't have to go back up to the Mirage to cash the ticket. I could just rip it up. So that was good at least. All right. Matthew, thanks for hanging out, man. And thanks for whoever else is hanging out and not chatting. But we do have a couple other viewers here, I think. That's going to do it for me, man. Once again, my plays today are the Philadelphia Eagles -6 in the NFC Championship. College basketball coming up in a little bit over an hour. Indiana +3.5. Let's kick it off right. And then I don't know when this game is, but Utah Hockey Club +112. That's going to do it. Tower Gang Toad on Twitter and follow the Tower Gang podcast, patreon.com/Tower Gang. And you get bonus content, live pre-show, live post-show, more of the most hilarious offensive content that you expect, man. Let's have a good one. Let's enjoy the games today. And peace out.